And Richo, you know, you and I both different streams of influence, although I think we both have an affection for the St George rugby league team. So we've got some things in common, Richo. But, you know, it's pretty clear that the electorate doesn't reward you for what you've done. They want to know what you're going to do next. And this is the problem. I think this whole campaign has been built around the kind of no big thing promise. Scott Morrison got close, I think, with his housing response to Albanese's earlier housing package, but the absence of the big vision thing and the clarity around that has really been an issue.
Yeah, look, I think if you've been looking for vision, you'd be pretty disappointed at the moment. But you know, politics is often like that. What you've got this time is just a pretty ordinary campaign, one of the quietest campaigns I can ever remember. There are no big moments. This has just been as dull as dishwater, basically. And normally speaking, it's the incumbent who would like that. But I think on this occasion, because Labor's been in front of the polls for so long, the incumbents were the ones who needed to light up the place, who needed there to be an explosion, who needed some big impetus to get them over the line. And that just hasn't happened.
Yeah, I mean, Bronwyn Bishop, the Prime Minister, though, seems enormously pumped. I mean, it's almost like there was this mind meld, you know, if you don't know anything about Star Trek, where that 8-year-old boy he bumped into on the football field in Tassie the other day has given him this youthful vigour. He has had a spring in his step, and yet Anthony Albanese is saying, you know, oh, that's it, I've got nothing left in the tank, it's all been too hard.
Look, honestly, if you look at the campaign, Graham said it's been a quiet campaign. Well, it's been full of Labor Party gaffes. I mean, again and again, we've seen how Mr Albanese just can't hack it. As I said, I served in that chamber with him for 20 years, and he was never thought of as a leader of the party. He's just kind of fallen into the role. But he was always a committed socialist, and he still is. And that's why I say it's the old Fabian picture of the wolf in the sheep's clothing. Look at me, I'm safe, I'm sheep, I'm innocuous. But the real agenda will come out when they seize the reins of power. So when I look at the Prime Minister, he knows that he has, in fact, delivered Australia through a very, very difficult period. Nobody's going to say it was perfect, because it wasn't. But where was it anywhere in the world? But we have come out better than anywhere else in the world. And that's the truth. But the fact of the matter is that people, I think, want to put it behind them. And what they have to see is that Mr Morrison is the man who's going to lead the government and lead the people of Australia through to settling down the inflation that started to rise, not starting to feed it with a mammoth wage push, which Mr Albanese wants to do. And we all know that if you start chasing wages and inflation, that the inflation soon eats up any wage rise. So it needs to be sensible and stable leadership through this next difficult period.
Yeah, and of course, Lisa, they've promised basically another $8 billion worth of expenditure, which blows out the budget position. Maybe people don't care. Maybe, you know, that's the point. People really aren't caring about any of that detail. But I've had a few, you know, really rusted on Labor types say to me, the thing that upsets them is this is what the Labor Party has come to. Is this the best they can throw up as the leader? Now, he was elected by the caucus and the membership. He was popularly elected by the membership, but the caucus overrode it and put Shorten in. Shorten was a disaster, and Albanese is proving to be, in the minds of a lot of old-style Labor people, saying, is this as good as we have?
Well, it's the question that we've heard all the way through this. He just does not appear, or is he up to the job? He doesn't seem match fit for it. And it was from that first gaffe in that very first week all the way through to the point where, as we've seen, he was walking away from press conferences. How many different statements did he make about, I will stand here and answer all the questions? Well, he didn't. There were a number of occasions through this campaign where he didn't say what he said, he didn't do what he said he would do. And I think to turn it around, and then there was so much criticism on these gotcha questions. He was being asked questions that he should have known the answers to, and you can't turn that around and blame the media, because if he can't stand up to the media scrutiny of a press pack, how on earth can he be on the floor of Parliament and take unscripted questions without being on notice from the opposition leader if he is to be the Prime Minister. That's what people need to ask themselves if they haven't already voted and they're going in there tomorrow. Is he up for it? Is he match fit? And what you've seen in the press, it doesn't seem he is.
And Richo, this is the other thing that I detect. I was in a mainly outer metro area, and I see, when I was a member of Parliament, I see this disparaging difference, or this great disparity between inner metro Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth, and outer metro and indeed regional Australia. I mean, you wrote the other day that if Albo becomes Prime Minister, it'll be a win for the battlers. This bloke's got $10 million worth of inner Sydney property. Good luck to him. But he's not exactly a battler anymore. He rose up from, humble beginnings. And if I say the words, that he was raised in a housing commission home by a single mother, everyone's heard that. Everyone's got that. But the simple reality, Richo, is how are you going to bring the country together when there's a tale of two electorates going on right now, inner city versus outer city and the regions?
Well, that's obviously the challenge, and people have to decide who's best up to meeting that challenge. I've always believed that Anthony's the right man for the job. One of the things that you get from his beginnings to now is that he has got real compassion. And that's something that people have doubted in Morrison for a long time. Real compassion. And I think that's just terribly important in politics today, because it's a dying quality. It's something that just not enough of our modern politicians have. I'm delighted that he has it. It backs up his economics degree. This bloke knows which way's up, and that's the way he's headed.
Except he didn't know what day it was today on the 7:30 report. So he must have a sign in front of him saying it's that way. That's where up is. That's the problem. All these gaffes, Graham, haven't done his credibility any good at a time of great uncertainty. Whether you're angry with Morrison or not, this bloke is a huge, huge risk.
I'd have to say that you're dead wrong on that count. What the gaffes have done is do absolutely nothing to his credibility. It has remained exactly the same. He has been able to survive that because people, I think, look through it and say, well, we've seen enough of this bloke over enough years to know that when the crunch comes, he can handle it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bronwyn, let's face it, he was electing... He was getting elected on Saturday, he thought, and he'd get sworn in with Penny Wong on Sunday and he'd leave the country. Sorry, who was running the country at that point? Oh, hang on, I'll swear in the deputy. At one stage I was wondering whether or not he thought he should leave the deputy Prime Minister uncertain so that Adam Bant might in fact not be so upset that he wasn't being considered for the job. But either way, he was really focused in on the trip overseas, which he should do. If he wins tomorrow, I've got no problem with that. But the whole mechanics goes again to his competency, understanding how the country has to run when he is not here.
Well, I think you'll find that people are pretty convinced of his competency, and I think the results of that will be very clear tomorrow.
OK, well, Bronwyn, you got a view on that?
Yes, I do. I just feel that it's a question of whether or not the Australian people simply want to have change for change's sake, in which case they would be looking at Mr Albanese as a possible Prime Minister, or if they see that there is a rocky road ahead and they're really going to need someone with experience and who is hard-headed and able to take people through, and in which case they'll choose Mr Morrison. And I do believe that path is still there. It is a question of which seats are likely to fall, which way. It's likely to be, we'll be concentrating on seats in Western Australia and in Queensland and in New South Wales in particular, which will determine which way it will go. I just can't stress it too much. We're headed for troubled times, very troubled times, with China on the march. Yeah. With world inflation, with the fact that we are part of the world and dependent for supply lines, the cost of oil, and like it or not, this world still runs on fossil fuel, which is what Europe is finding out right now. So we're going to have very difficult times ahead. And the one thing I perhaps want to see least is a hung parliament. I do want to see some stability.
Yeah.
And I believe that Mr Morrison is the one best placed to give it.
Well, in case you're doubting, this is a little bit of a package of some of the interesting moments. In fact, some surveys have been done in some of the papers, the Daily Telegraph in particular, and they awarded Mr Albanese the biggest BS claim of the campaign. They've gone back over all the various claims he's made. An economic advisor to the Hawke government. He was a junior staffer in a junior minister's office, in the electorate office, heavens above. But here is this interesting snapshot of some of the great moments of the campaign.
Unemployment rate at the moment is, I think it's 5.4. Sorry, I'm not sure what it is. It was a mistake. People make mistakes. If a mistake is made, I made a mistake. If ever I make a mistake.
Do you remain committed to Operation Sovereign Borders? And if so, do you support the retention of temporary protection visas?
Yes. Earlier on, I heard half the question and didn't hear all of it.
What are the 6 points?
The 6 points are what we will do in terms was outlined by Bill Shorten.
Just to clarify, do you not know what the 6 points are for the NDIS question that Mr Kersley just asked you? But also, sorry,
Policy document.
if you, is this a sign that you don't know what one of your policy is?
Are they the 6 points?
Are these the 6 points here that had to be handed to you by your advisor?
Our borders are closed, Lisa. Our borders are closed. People are doing it tough.
I mean, Lisa, let's face it, it's a train smash all the way through, but Richo's probably right. People don't much care.
But Richard, I don't understand how you can explain that that's a sign of being competent. He should have the answers to those questions. That wasn't a press pack bullying. That was a press pack asking legitimate questions that he should have known the answers to. If you have a 6-point plan, deliver and be able to explain your 6-point plan. Don't wait for the cheat sheet to come through. It's why your media strategist lays it out as a 6-point plan so you can remember it. It's very simple 101 of politics. And I just don't think the average person who was watching the news, if they're watching the 6 o'clock news at night and saw that, would think, yep, there's a man who can lead our country. And if they did, I think we have a problem.